Imagine standing in a room filled with the heavy, cloying scent of lilies and the sound of muffled, rhythmic sobbing. Everyone around you is breaking. Shoulders are shaking, tissues are being shredded in trembling hands, and the air is thick with a shared, agonizing grief. But then you see them. They're standing in the front row, back straight, eyes clear, and face as still as a frozen lake. Not a single tear, not even a glassy sheen in their eyes. In that moment, a strange, uncomfortable thought crosses your mind. Are they heartless? Are they cold? Or is there something much deeper, much darker, happening beneath that calm exterior? We've been conditioned to believe that tears are the universal currency of love. If you loved them, you'd cry. If you're hurting, the world should see it. So when someone refuses to pay that emotional toll, we label them. We call them stoic or detached or even sociopathic. But the psychology of the dry-eyed mourner is far more complex than a simple lack of feeling. In fact, for many, the absence of tears isn't a sign of a cold heart. It's a sign of a mind that is currently fighting a war just to stay upright. Think about the last time you were truly shocked, not just surprised, but genuinely rocked to your core. In those first few seconds, did you scream? Did you weep? Probably not. You likely went numb. This is where the mystery begins. For some people, a funeral isn't the end of that numbness. It's the peak of it. This is what psychologists call the freeze response. We all know fight or flight, but freeze is the brain's ultimate emergency brake. When a loss is too massive, too overwhelming for the psyche to process, the brain effectively pulls the fire alarm and shuts down the entire emotional system. It's an internal circuit breaker. If the system stayed on, the surge of grief would literally be too much for the nervous system to handle. So the brain cuts the power. They aren't crying because the software for crying has been temporarily uninstalled to protect the hardware of the mind. Now imagine living your entire life with a translator that only works half the time. This brings us to a fascinating and often misunderstood condition called alexithymia. It's not a mental illness, but a personality trait where a person has a profound difficulty identifying and describing their own emotions. To someone with alexithymia, grief doesn't feel like sadness. It might feel like a heavy pressure in the chest, a dull headache, or a strange sense of exhaustion. They know something is wrong, but they can't connect the physical sensation to the emotional label of mourning. When they stand at a casket, they are feeling the weight of the world, but their brain can't find the trigger to release the tears. They are trapped in a silent room with no door. But what if the silence is intentional? What if it's an armor built over decades? Consider the stoic archetype. From a very young age, many people, particularly men, though not exclusively, are taught that vulnerability is a liability. Big boys don't cry. Keep it together. Be the pillar. These aren't just phrases, they are blueprints for a personality. By the time they reach adulthood, the act of suppressing tears isn't even a conscious choice anymore. It's a reflex. These are the people who handle the logistics of the funeral. They're the ones making sure the flowers arrived, that the guests are fed, and that the music starts on time. They use doing as a shield against feeling. They aren't crying because they've assigned themselves the role of the protector. They believe that if they break, the entire family will crumble. They carry the weight so others don't have to, and the price they pay is the perception that they don't care. But here is where it gets truly haunting. Have you ever heard of the volcano effect? Just because someone doesn't cry at the funeral doesn't mean the grief isn't there. It's just being stored. It's sitting in a pressurized chamber deep within their subconscious. For these individuals, grief is a delayed reaction. They might stay perfectly composed for the wake, the service, and the burial. They might even be fine for weeks or months afterward. But then one day, months later, something tiny happens. They drop a glass, they see a specific brand of cereal in the grocery store, they hear a song on the radio, and suddenly the dam breaks. The grief that was denied at the funeral comes rushing back with a violence that is terrifying. This delayed grief can be far more destructive than the immediate kind, because by then the support system has usually moved on. They are left to drown in a storm that everyone else thinks is already past. Now, let's talk about the uncanny valley of mourning. Why does it bother us so much when someone doesn't cry? It's because humans are biologically wired to look for social cues. Tears are a signal to the tribe that we need help, that we are vulnerable, and that we are safe. When someone doesn't show that vulnerability, it triggers a primal fear in us. We wonder, if they can lose someone they love and not shed a tear, what else are they capable of? We project our own fears of abandonment and coldness onto them. But this is our failure, not theirs. We are judging their internal reality based on an external performance.
Think about the concept of disassociation. In the midst of extreme trauma, the mind can actually split. A person might feel like they are watching the funeral from a distance, as if they are a character in a movie or a ghost haunting their own body. Nothing feels real. The casket, the priest, the crying relatives, it all feels like a dream. When you are in a dissociative state, you cannot cry, because you aren't there to feel the pain. You are hovering somewhere above it, shielded by a fog of unreality. It's the brain's way of saying, "This is too much, let's pretend it's not happening." There's also the element of internalized mourning. In some cultures and personality types, grief is considered the most private thing a human can experience. To display it in front of others feels like an intrusion or even a performance. For these people, crying in public feels fake, even if the emotions are real. They wait. They wait until they are in the shower, or in their car, or staring at a wall in the middle of the night. Their grief is a secret they keep from the world, a sacred fire they tend to only when they are alone. When you see them at the funeral, you are seeing the mask. You aren't invited to see what's behind it. And then we must consider neurodiversity. For individuals on the autism spectrum, the sensory overload of a funeral, the loud sobbing, the crowded rooms, the intense social expectations, can lead to a shutdown. While everyone else is focused on the loss, the neurodivergent brain might be struggling just to process the environment. They might look indifferent or even bored, but internally they are navigating a sensory and emotional minefield. Their lack of tears isn't a lack of love, it's a different way of processing the world. So the next time you find yourself at a funeral and you see that one person who isn't crying, don't be so quick to judge. Don't assume they didn't love the person in the casket. Don't assume they are made of stone. Instead, consider the possibility that they are currently holding back a tidal wave. Consider that their silence is a scream you just can't hear. Consider that they might be the one in the most danger of being consumed by their grief, precisely because they have no way to let it out. Grief is not a performance. It has no script. There is no correct way to break. Some people shatter like glass, loud and visible for everyone to see. Others break like a deep-sea tectonic plate, silent, hidden under miles of dark water, but capable of causing a tsunami that will change the landscape of their lives forever. The person who doesn't cry at the funeral might not be heartless. They might just be the one who is currently drowning in a sea so deep that the surface doesn't even ripple. The real mystery isn't why some people don't cry. The real mystery is how much pain a human soul can carry before it finally gives way. And for those who stand silent at the grave, the weight they are carrying is something most of us can't even imagine. They are the keepers of the silent sorrow, the ones who mourn in the shadows of their own minds, long after the flowers have wilted and the crowds have gone home. Remember, the loudest grief is often the shortest lived. It's the quiet ones you have to worry about. It's the dry eyes that hold the deepest oceans.